We edited this one first, and it's a much sort of leisurely pace because I think it's still packed with stuff, but it's a very different feel to the cranky knockoff of the pace. And the 4 stories, you can get a big ending and then it settles down again, and that's a different thing to doing the half hours, which feel much more punchy in a way, don't they?
So Matt,
Matt directs it.
The director, Matt, and you've worked, of course, you've directed the first series and you've directed the second series. It is, I would imagine that, not that I don't say they're remotely difficult to work with, but I imagine that Rhys and Steve kind of control every aspect. Just the impression.
He just fell short of adding freak at the end of it. Control freaks, no, not at all. Hugely collaborative, they both are. What the truth of it is, though, what arrives in front of me is beautifully crafted, fully formed script. And as much as I'd love to claim credit for whole swathes of it, it's a process of really just taking what's down on paper and writing it live for the screen, and that's relatively easy because it's so well crafted. But then the process of visualising it is done as a team.
Yeah. There's some beautiful directorial little moments in there, though. The scene where Lomax is watching the old lady being strangled whilst watching EastEnders.
Yeah.
Magic.
It's good. That's good.
But that's you. Is that your vision in that particular moment? Is that the sort of freedom that you have to?
Honestly, you'd have to go back and you'd have to get a hold of the script and read it. And I mean, the fact of it is, anyone who reads a book, you read anything that's well written, it'll conjure pictures up. Obviously, there is an interpretation of that. But what's interesting is the interpretation is always in conjunction then, in terms of realising, in conjunction with the constraints of the budget. And as Justin well knows, we were up against it. We had a very ordinary comedy budget to do it. So take that sequence, for example, where it comes down the stairs. There's a huge panel there on the wall. If you can go back and look at it again, you might even remember. A huge panel on the wall. The mirror that sits in the panel is about a quarter the size of it. Any production designer worth their salt would have gone, oh, fuck's sake, that's ridiculous, it's wrong. That's what we had. That's all we had to work with. They couldn't build a mirror bigger than that because it cost a fortune. Remember, we had to get three of them made to have repeats in case anything went wrong. That's £1,500 worth of. So the mirror's that size. Actually, as it goes, since it wasn't quite the vision that I had for it, probably not for either Bruce or Steve, it actually works in a bizarre way. There's this very strange thin mirror sat there, which is also strangely warped because, again, it's a cheaper model than it should have been. But it all works. It all adds to the thing. So you have a vision, but it's compromised and it shapes and changes.
And just in that, so as the producer, that must have been a challenge for you. That what Rhys and Steve give you is clearly very ambitious, and then it sounds like you were working with a fairly ordinary BBC comedy budget.
Well, an equation that I always like to throw at people is that what you saw tonight was made by Matt on 12 days, in 12 days. So it's like making half a feature film in 12 days, which scares the living daylights out of me. But, working with these guys, they're masters, and not every piece of, writing needs to be, tampered with by a producer or a director. We all gather together in pre-production and sort of think, wow, how cool is this? We get to make this work.
And to reiterate the point that John was making there, it is half a feature film, and it's, in fact, I've seen it twice. I've seen it on the television, I've seen it on the cinema screen. It's even better watching it the second time, I have to say, because as with the first series, as with the lead, you just keep noticing more. But it works. It cinematically works in the cinema, doesn't it? Eve, for you as a costume designer, that's a great gig. You did the costumes for all 3 series of the League, for the League Apocalypse, for this. That's a great job. What's the most thrilling bit for you? Is it when the costumes are made and you see them for the first time? Is it seeing the cast in the costumes on the set?
Well, eventually it's probably when you arrive on set and then you see a finished scene and it's all there and complete. Having dreamt it about sort of 2 months earlier and seeing it in the flesh is probably one of the biggest things you can get. But the kick starts when you start reading a script. I read a script pretty much, that I want to trail Matt's territory, but as a director would, and pretty much as performers do. And so I take my time and I imagine a whole world that is developing there, and the psychology, and don't forget that these guys are playing women, but they play women as women, not men in drag, and that is a whole different ballgame. And eventually obviously the detail that sort of comes into it. So it's, imagine, take it as any reader would read a book.
Do you like seeing homemade versions of your costumes?
There will be points.
Maybe lawyers as well.
And copyrights issue.
How does it work? Do you go to, you go, look, I've got this character, Mr. Jelly, he comes back with something, and you go, no, make it darker, make it weirder. How does it collapse in that way?
Well, I do lots of drawings as well, don't I?
Yeah, you do.
With the initial
I
ideas.
did a lot of doodles.
Yeah, a lot of doodles and thoughts, and then he was kind of.
Which I do follow very closely. In terms of silhouette and in terms of ideas, initial ideas.
Yeah, so then it's just a process then, and fly back and forth, and we eventually arrive.
Yeah.
There is a point where I let go of it, as you have to, and it just comes to me.
Jelly's obviously gesturing. Jelly's an interesting character, and I've interviewed you a few times and spent a few evenings with you recently. And in some ways, Jelly is essentially a toned-down version of you.
Yeah, he is. That's yes. It's true. I do play a lot of angry. I enjoy playing a lot of angry characters. I think I'm more placid in my old age. I'm not as angry as I used to be. I don't think. I don't know what I'm angry about. There's no reason. But I like channeling the anger.
I think somewhere between series 1 and 2 there was a point where you were a bit angry. Dan, were you a fan of the League of Gentlemen? Were you familiar?
Never heard of it.
No, I watched it. I didn't really. I was a bit young for it. It was like, what time was it? 10 o'clock. I was in bed. I had school the next day when the League was on. And no, I hadn't watched it all. And then I saw Psychoville and I got the DVDs. And then literally, I just watched it in the afternoon. I was just so hooked. I was just like, whoa. And when it came on TV, I watched it again. It was just amazing. Because I've read the scripts and I'm really rubbish at interpreting scripts and seeing the costume and how they're going to shoot it and all this, that, and how it's going to be presented on TV. And when I saw it, I was like, this is amazing. So, yeah.
It must be, for actors, this must be great. It's really difficult to visualise, particularly before series 1 had gone out and getting that script. You must have no idea what it's going to look like. For the actors, it must be quite hard for them to really know what it is.
So, yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's the first time I've heard Daniel say that. But yeah, I mean, it's different for different actors, I suppose. Yeah. But it's quite hard to get a lot of them, of course, don't read the whole script. Let's face it, as you probably will know.
Yes.
I'm not in there. Then they've got no idea what's really taking place. So.
I say when I first met Eileen for her character, I spent an hour with her at her house, and she straightforwardly said, I like what it is, because I have no idea. I'm not a fan of Link. And I've only taken the part.
She said, well, I'm not.
I mean, she hasn't followed the Link. She did follow the Link.
First time I've heard this.
Here comes Jelly.
But she will take the part for one particular line.
Yeah, I remember that.
Which line is that?
It reminds me of that charming person, the actress who is in series 2, who we won't talk about, who walked up to Reese one day and said, "Who wrote this rubbish?"
Yes, somebody did say that.
Hopefully not to you. To me? No, somebody else said to you. How did you respond?
I said, I did.